right, it's talk time now. Nigeria's employment crisis may have worsened in recent times. The National Bureau of Statistics says it has risen to 12.1%.
That's true, Mike. And the Bureau said the population of unemployed Nigerians increased by 518,000. It now stands at more than 1.445 million. Let's take this report.
Only 73 million Nigerians are currently in employment. That figure represents more than 40% of the country's estimated 170 million population. Of this figure, only a little above 500,000 are economically active in what the National Bureau of Statistics says can be traced to a defect in the country's handling of the core productive sector of the economy. But how do you get people working? According to experts, a first step is to face the higher education curriculum.
If nation will develop, definitely they need to look at the educational system and from time to time overhaul the curriculum. Sometimes we are still offering courses that the colonial master left for us, and it doesn't speak well for our economy, but it doesn't really help our economy. So the NUC need to liaise with organizations, the corporate organization, the corporate world, to know what are the requirements for 21st century workplace and be able to adapt its own curriculum from time to time to meet up with this.
But staying competitive in the global market is also a bigger headache for the Nigerian economy. Many of the view that the country should consider outsourcing where manpower is lacking.
You are saving money. Saving money already helps you make more money. And then you're also saving on, you are using processes that are time tested, and you are saving on time. That time you can use for other things to make more money and invest in other things. So that alone is a way to make more money and to develop the economy.
A major takeaway from the discourse was the need for an economic blueprint that rewards the country's best brains right from school to boost the economy.
All right, joining us now is the convener, Exceptional Leadership Conference, Kelechi Okorie. Kelechi, it's good to have you on TVC Breakfast. Welcome. And from Abuja, joining us is the public policy expert, Ario Dare Atoye. Ario, good morning. It's good to have you on TVC Breakfast. All right, let's...
Yeah, good morning.
Good
nice
morning.
to be here. Good morning.
Okay. Kelechi, let's start with you here. You are a young person. You've been involved with a lot of young people and so on. Now, when it comes to unemployment, the figures are there, certainly.
Hello, I can't hear you.
In the books and so on. But if we come to the practical aspect, on the streets, in the communities and all of that, how bad is the issue of unemployment?
Well, it's, thank you so much. It's an obvious fact, unemployment. This topic is very interesting, talking about unemployment. Also, I will also want us to look at underemployment, because these are two dangerous things that are happening now that the nation must rise to tackle. Now, talking about unemployment, I relate with a lot of youths every day. I organize seminars, conferences. In fact, as a matter of fact, what came to the back of my mind when I organize conferences is to make it free. Because in the first place, you are talking about a youth, just a young graduate, who just graduated from school without a job. He doesn't have anything, and you are organizing a conference to empower him. You don't ask him to pay to come and get the information that will empower him to do something. So you see a lot of things happening. You could see the statistics that was just released. So unemployment, I will say that we are going to take responsibility. Three bodies are going to take responsibility. Government is going to, we're going to talk about the government aspect of it.
Okay, Kelechi.
All right, exactly. Now, before we go into what government or agencies should do, I really want to, because you said you relate with the youth, away from conferences, away from seminars, away from all of those, on the street generally, because that's the picture we want to create. How bad is the issue of unemployment?
It's as bad as you're just walking on the street. You see a lot of young people standing, doing nothing. So at that point, they could do anything. They can extort. That's why you will see a lot of them turning to what we call agbero here. They just stop by, whatever they can do to get money, they will just do it. So they're just walking on the streets doing nothing. So you see hunger, you see starvation, you see crimes that are going on. Of course, you understand that when somebody has a need and the need is not forthcoming, he devises means on how to get it. Right. So now the situation, the way it is, and of course, the unemployment rate is increasing every day. If you add up the other parts, which is underemployment, meaning people who are even engaged in a job, but they are just there. All right. The payment, what they are being paid is not even worth the work they are doing. So they are just hanging on.
Okay, Kelechi, that said, let's put you on hold now and move on now to Ario, who is a public policy expert. He joins us live from our Abuja studio. So, Ario, now, just earlier this week, we got a further dismal outlook of Nigeria's economy now, this time from the Bureau of Statistics, saying Nigeria is in a very, very, very bad shape now. What's your assessment as to the implications and what Nigeria can somehow benefit now from this scenario?
It's lost. Yeah, I think I got you earlier, but I'm having problem with the sound. However, we didn't get to this place in a day. We've been warned about the situation that we find ourselves today. And if you look critically, right from May 29, including on your show, we've had series of experts coming to warn Nigeria about what was likely going to happen in a matter of months. They gave us timeline. They told us that if the federal government fails to act as at so time, by August, by September, by December, by first quarter of January, they told us everything that was going to happen. Unfortunately, the government refused to listen. We didn't get to this level in just a day. We were warned, had an issue right from May 29. But unfortunately, the government was telling us it was clearing mess, it was doing some certain things in order, looking for ministers, looking for whatever, people call them angels then. But today, the reality has dawned on us. And if you look at the pages of newspaper today appears probably the worst day of this present government in 15 months, simply because the government, everything is not looking good on the pages of newspapers. And it's simply because the government did not put in place its own policy right. Nothing was done in terms of getting the policy perspective of this government right. For instance, it's always the business of a government that immediately this government came into power was to have been able to actually let Nigerians to know its own policies and programs regarding the economy and governance of these nations, such as even probably maybe putting timeline to these policies and also looking for the right men and women that will help the government to drive those policies. But unfortunately, this government didn't do that, and that is why we are in this problem today. You see, you can't eat your cake and have it. You have to start early and actually put your game in order. But however, I don't think all hope is not lost, simply because it's also a call and a challenge to us as a nation. The onus is still on the government to be able to look for the right men and women to be able to take Nigerians out of the wood. Because believe me sincerely, great leaders are made in times of wars and in times of challenges. And I believe that that is the time for us now. If the president will still have to look out for men and women in Nigeria who have the capacity to actually help this nation, they should stop this dilly-dally thing of we're clearing mess, we are blocking loopholes. Call out the best of your nation and let us solve this problem. Over 4 million Nigerians are out of jobs since May 29. 2015. It is not looking good. And many more are going to lose jobs if we don't do anything. And it is crashing on all of us.
Okay.
The government
Ario,
should act now.
Yeah, Ario, before we go into what should be done and what we should do. Now, in this circumstance where we find ourselves right now, with economic and social challenges generally, there are some youths or some young persons who are involved in setting up their own businesses, getting involved with some activity, inventing this and coming up with that, in the same situation where some persons are losing their jobs. What are these persons doing right? What are they doing differently, rather, that the others are not doing?
Yeah, let me just put it this way. I think I got you. I'm having a problem, some issues here. But however, I think I got a bit of what you're trying to say here. You see, some organization, possibly if I could remember, IRI, International Republican Institute, did a research that was about 2-3 years ago, and they came up with an interesting finding that the future of Nigeria lies in the youth, and the greatest resource at the disposal of Nigeria is the youth. But you know, one thing we just have to get as Nigerians is that it is the responsibility of government to inspire hope. Inspire hope in the sense that creating the necessary environment, the enabling environment for the youth to operate. It is when the government prioritizes the involvement of the youth, that is when the youth will actually have that opportunity to be able to invest their time and energy. For instance, there is one tragedy in Nigeria today: we are not investing on research and development. Unfortunately, at this time when the government of this nation is supposed to be investing in the youth, the government is searching for oil in the Benue Trough. Now, we are not going to get well by doing all these things. Now, I can tell you that we have abundance of Nigerians. Enough Nigerians, youth, have the capacity to actually support this government to create wealth. Now, you see, it is even timely, the coming of Mark Zuckerberg, the man from this Zuckerberg street, that's Facebook, has shown us that the youth of Nigerians have the potential. The reason why that young man came to Nigeria is because he has seen that the future belongs to Nigeria. But our government is still seeing the future of Nigeria in oil. That is why we are having this problem. The future of our nation is in the capacity of the youth and the young ones to be able to change the dynamism of government. And if we don't do it, we're still going to run into much problems. You see, like I said, we're not funding research and development, and we are not funding education. And these are the bedrock of development. We have abundance of youth that can create jobs for Nigeria. For instance, just imagine how much Facebook bought WhatsApp. Imagine WhatsApp was financed by the federal government of Nigeria, maybe through some young Nigerians, and just imagine what the federal government of Nigeria will be making from that kind of transaction. We still have that opportunities, waiting, on us as a nation. We have the capacity, we have the human resource, we have the wherewithal, we have the young people, vibrant Nigerians who have this capacity to transform this nation. But it depends on the orientation of government. If the orientation of government is not about giving the youth or bringing the youth into perspective of governance, we're not going to get it right. No matter what the youth sector, no matter what we do as young Nigerians, we all have ideas, we all have how we think government should run, and we all have ideas on how to better the economy of our nation. But this oil thing is going to kill us. It's going to destroy us as a nation. Knowledge-driven economy is the way forward for our nation.
Okay,
the government has to invest in young Nigerians. The government has to make the
All right, Ario, we'll come back to you on this. I know you have a lot in your mind you want to say about how things should be. But let's come back home now. Unemployment in Nigeria is a long-standing problem that affects the economy, and collated data over the years show that the number of unemployed Nigerians continue to rise. Now, let me take you to my wall in here to give you a perspective of what we are discussing in here. Now, all right, my producers can put this on my wall so I can see. Fine. Now, this is just a picture of Nigerians, a lot gathered in there. They're unemployed. are citizens that are currently not working but are willing and able to work for pay, currently available to work, and have actively searched for work. And this source is by international labor organizations. And certainly in Nigeria, the unemployment rate measures the number of people actively looking for a job as a percentage of the labor force. Now, citizens who fall within the age bracket of 15 to 64 are considered as Nigeria's labor force. Now, let's move ahead. Now, the National Bureau of Statistics, the NBS, certainly in 2014 started collecting unemployment data quarterly, and their labor force surveys carried out over 3 weeks, covering 133,200 households across Nigeria, 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, at an average of 5.7 persons per household, and that was done from 2014. If we move ahead, let's get ahead here. Okay. All right, fine. We'll come back to this. Now, Kelechi, let me ask you this: when we talk about unemployment and young people generally, those who have actually been involved in the training process, either have gone to school and all of that. We've heard experts sometimes say even the Nigerian youth sometimes, to a great extent, are not employable. So how do we explain that?
Well, there are a lot of factors also to consider. Like as I was trying to say, that some bodies are responsible. We look at government. Government has to play a very major role, like creating the policies. Like I would say one of it is the school system, the school itself. How are youths being trained? How a graduate, when you see a graduate that say, I studied business administration, for instance, and the person cannot, or I studied marketing, the person cannot actually go and convince a customer of a product that he or she created by himself. So we just see a school system that produces graduates that are half-baked.
But is it all the schools that does the same thing? Are all the schools involved in producing half-baked products?
Not all the schools. Like as I said, many factors contribute to it. We also have youths who are not very willing to do anything. Our guest just mentioned, Ario just mentioned something concerning Mark Zuckerberg, who came to Nigeria. He created Facebook. Do you know how many of our youths who are living in the cyber world, who are living on Facebook throughout the day doing nothing? So those are the things that we look at. The youths also, we have roles to play. We have roles to play to save ourselves from this situation.
Kelechi, what is different now that you're bringing Mark Zuckerberg back? What's different in what Mark is doing? Are you saying he has, a better climate now to work with, as against Nigerian youth who perhaps work harder but get worse than little results? For
sure. In Nigeria, you have a young person. Nigerian youths are very creative. I must give it to them. But sometimes the environment is so harsh that it kills the vision, it kills the idea. There is also an issue of intellectual property, not courage to want to do something bigger. So all of this contributes. And talking about Mark Zuckerberg, we talked about, the environment is there. We just talked about WhatsApp. Can we have agencies or government perhaps, or we have organizations that could say, you have an idea, we sponsor this idea, we invest in it. So how can an ordinary youth survive in an environment where you cannot even get financial support? You graduated from school, for instance, you are even looking for a job. Every company you go to is asking you for 5 years experience. Somebody who just graduated and did the youth service, where did the 5 years experience come from, or 2-3 years experience? So you find out that you have to now begin to go all over the town looking for a job. Now you want to do a business. I'm an entrepreneur right now. I run my own business. I understand the situation. There are some times from months, because of course at the end of the month I'm not expecting a salary. So if nothing comes in at the end of the month, I go home. So I was sharing with I was sharing with my wife. I was telling her that for 3 months, the company has been owing me. Yes.
So your company?
Yes, my company. So every month, I print out my pay slip and hold it. I look at it, I said, the company is owing me. So when money comes, the company will pay me. So how many youths will be able to sustain at that point? That is the issue. Now, you also have a situation where even when you want to get a shop, to even start up something, or you want to start from your house, there are so many taxes, there are so many collections. You cannot. Yesterday, I went to a ladies' business center to just run a copy, and she cannot display anything. She cannot pay LASA. I'm not saying it's wrong, but so many things tasking you.
Okay. Well, Kelechi, we'll come back to you on this. Let's go back in here. Now, in Nigeria, people are considered unemployed when they fall within the age bracket of 15 to 64 that make up Nigeria's workforce but are actively seeking a job. Now, this means that these people are at the economically active segment of the population, willing and ready to work, but do not have jobs. However, people who choose to stay at home, such as full-time students or ill and unable to work, are not counted as unemployed. Let's take a look at these figures from the National Bureau of Statistics from the 2016 second quarter unemployment and underemployment report. Now, Kelechi talked about the issue of underemployment earlier on. We'll come back into this. Now, in the second quarter of 2015, the rate at that time stood at 8.2%. And if we move to the third quarter of 2015, the unemployment rate shot up to 9.9%. In the fourth quarter of 2015, it shot to 10.4%. And then in the first quarter of 2016, the unemployment rate shot up to 12.1%. And the second quarter, we're looking at 13.3%. That's really alarming, if I must say. Now, there is a consecutive rise in unemployment rate. Let's move on to understanding other aspects of this. Now, according to the Bureau, about 1.46 million Nigerians became unemployed in the third quarter of 2015, while another 518,102 became unemployed in the fourth quarter of 2015. The total number of Nigerians who became unemployed within the first and second quarter of 2016 now stands at 2.6 million. And this brings total freshly unemployed persons in the economy to a record high of about 4 million people since 2015. Now, let's move on. We see in here there were a total of 26.06 million people, if we have to count them in number, in the fourth quarter of 2015 who were unemployed. And then moving on to the first quarter of 2016, it was, if we have to narrow them into numbers now, it was about 24.5 million people who were unemployed. And then in the second quarter of 2016, we had 26.06 million people who were unemployed. Okay. Moving on in here. Now, the economically active population or working age population, persons within the age of 15 to 64 increased from 106 million people in the second quarter of 2016. And the labor force population, those within the working age population, willing, able and actively looking for work, rose to 79.9 million people in the second quarter of 2016. Now let's get to Ario. Let me put back Ario on in here from our Abuja studio. Ario, let's look at the issue of. I know you have really talked about what government is not doing right. Government has not kept up with this and that. But the issue where every young person is looking for a white-collar job or a job that is going to be provided by government, don't you think this is where the problem is generally?
Yeah, you exactly. I agree with you that, for instance, I'm an advocate of collective responsibility. I believe that the business of government or governance is not that of the people in government or the government on its own, including the citizens also have to be involved. But believe me sincerely, the minimum threshold, the minimum foundation that government should put in place is actually lacking for the citizens, possibly, let me say, the youth now, that probably is the focus of this discussion. If that minimum enable environment, that minimum platform is not there for the youth to actually do, be able to exhibit or show their capacity, definitely is going to be a problem. You see, it's just that I keep talking about government. There is nothing new about the problem we are here now, because we've been told that we're going to get there. But the problem is that the government has not desired to create that opportunity for the youth to actually be able, to do the needful. But unfortunately, let's even look at it. Some of the young ones who have actually done very well, some businesses that we've seen in the last 2-3 years, now they are coming down because of the ineptitude and lack of policy direction of this current government. Why? For instance, talk about Konga, talk about Jumia, talk about all those beautiful initiatives, including in the IT world, including what about young entrepreneurs? Ask them now. They were at the point in time 2-3 years ago, including on your stations, we're hearing beautiful reports about all these young guys, But today, what's the story like? It's pathetic. It means that the supporting structure, which is supposed to come from the government, is actually not working. Either we like it or not, it is the policy of government about time that will actually help the economy to grow. And if that is not in place, definitely it's going to affect every other thing within that economy. Now, just imagine the amount of money people have lost due to all these things. Now, what do we do here? If government is not acting, there is a little or nothing the youth or Nigerians can actually do to be able to create alternative, because even the alternatives they've created,
let me ask you this,
in the last the last 15 months, simply because
Ario, let me ask you this. When we talk about young people generally and what government is not doing, because that's where you're focusing, we certainly will agree that the oil production from the stronghold of Nigeria's revenue, that has been at the point of over 2 million barrels per day, is now just about 1.4, 1.5 or 1.6 million barrels per day. And this is a product of militancy in the Niger Delta. And the collection of all of these people, they are all young and youths who are supposed to understand that this is where the foundation of the strength of our country lies. So how do we reconcile when youth are supposed to be part of making contribution to ensuring that the nation has what it takes to help other people, especially when the government right now is trying to do this and trying to do that for everyone, and they don't have the wherewithal?
Now, let me quickly answer you on that. Believe me sincerely, for us to be able to deal with this kind of issue that you've raised, we have to look at the historical perspective. The Niger Delta didn't get to this level in a day, in a month, in 2 years, in 10 years. It's been on for decades. It's simply because we went to Niger Delta to exploit oil without actually taking into consideration the future of that region. You see, we have all now suddenly gotten to the bush, and we have seen Iroko trees, which is constituting like a barrier to our development, without looking at the fact that this Iroko tree were at the point in time seed and a tender plant growing. And we warned that this thing was going to get to this level, but we ignored. Unfortunately, again, we want to also deal with the Niger Delta issue by rolling up arms, by creating more bitterness in that region. If this government succeeds by using force, to be able to rescue production maybe from 1.4 million to 2 million, believe me sincerely, it's not sustainable. This is not how to correct problems or how to address injustice. You address injustice by sitting down with the people and making the necessary sacrifice.
All right.
Now, for instance, let me give you one thing. One of the reasons why there was agitation in the Niger Delta was the issue of Maritime University. what was the reasons why that university was removed in the first place? Now, how much have we lost, comparable to whatever the amount that people are alleging that have been spent on that university? We are simply not looking at this thing holistic. And let me say this. You see, it is wisdom for us as a nation to be able to address our problems, looking at the historical angle to it and also being futuristic about it. If we think that we can use the military might, simply because we have soldiers, it's not going to end it, it's not going to address the problem. We are just joking. But believe me sincerely, if there is a sincerity of purpose, and we put in place sincerity of purpose, and we meet all the stakeholders, I'm telling you, the youth themselves will also see it. And you see, the truth is very, very vital here. The truth will even help us a long way to be able to address these years of injustice.
All right, Ario.
People are looking at the symptoms, looking at the youth causing
All
problems.
right, Ario. Let's put you on hold. Sorry about that interruption, but let's put you on hold and bring in our other guest. Kelechi is still with us in the house, an entrepreneur who, of course, knows all the challenges now being faced at the moment now. So you mentioned underemployment, unemployment. The NLC even brought in another rather interesting view now, saying there's a third one now, disguised employment. Now, it does gives one now, perhaps what's the problem really beyond the government and what the government didn't do or is doing wrong? Is the average youth now looking at the wrong places? Is the average youth now afraid to more or less plunge into the deep and, take his chances, take her chances, test the waters really? What can the youth do differently? Because we are seeing the big names, the people are actually making it as bad as the situation is. So what should other youth be looking at?
Unfortunately, there are so many things the youth can do, but unfortunately, we don't have role models to look at. When we organize the youth to come together to encourage them, to tell them, teach them, talk about leadership, talk about human capacity development, talk about personal effectiveness. We want to talk about integrity and all of that. They also go out, they see flamboyant lifestyles, they see big cars being driven by people in the politics. So the issue of corruption is out there everywhere in the government, institutionalized. And you talk to the youth that he should be a good citizen or to behave well. So those teachings, those things, we put them together to talk to them about, they believe in, they come out and they meet reality. They meet the reality of things. But we have to keep talking. That's why this program is very, 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 very important. We have to keep talking. We have to keep encouraging the youth. Then within us, within the youth, we can see whoever that is doing well. Also, the media could help. Whoever that is doing well among the youths, bring the person, let the person talk about his story and encourage other people, and the youth can do something differently. But I must say that just like Ario was talking about the government will still have to play a very big role. I must say that attention must be shifted from oil to human capacity development. Can you imagine talking about 20-something million people not employed? We just talked about underemployment. By the time you add so many Nigerians who are not happy of the job they are doing right now. So disguised employment that you just mentioned, this is a new terminology. So all of these things are coming up in a situation like this, and it calls for worry. So, but okay. I must say that if these situations are not arrested, it might, in the end of the day, consume us as a nation. So we must do something about it.
All right. Let's bring in Foladele in here to give us a perspective on the reaction of Nigerians on social media. Fola, good morning.
Mike. Lovely to see you, Kemi.
Good to see you.
Good morning, Kelechi. Good morning, Ario.
Good morning.
All right, so in times like this, of course, people can't help but wonder, do things just seem to keep getting worse? I mean, today we're talking about corruption, tomorrow it's terrorism we're trying to tackle, and now we're back to the issue of unemployment that has actually plagued us for a long time, and we're hearing now that it just keeps getting on the rise. So let's see how people are reacting to this online. Okay, the first one here is from @Banji Rafa, and he's saying Nigeria equals high unemployment plus high inflation. This is a dead economy. The kind of unemployment we have is a structural one, the hardest type. The next one here is from @Abdul Hakim, and he's saying we need to invest in agriculture in order to reduce unemployment in Nigeria. Next one here is from I am Shegun Akonde, and this is saying, big reason for Nigeria's high unemployment is the lack of confidence in the government. Shino Peter is saying, there is a significantly high rate of crime in Nigeria. That's a fact, and it can't be separated from unemployment. Fresh Prince Giwa, unemployment is so high in Nigeria that you sound alien when you're employed and talk about job satisfaction or the lack of it. And the last one here is from Ume Oma, and this one got a lot of reactions. And he's saying, considering the unemployment rate in Nigeria, if one takes up professional begging as a career, you can be counting 6 figures annually.
So did many agree with him?
A lot of people, we got about over 50 retweets. I think people actually agreed with him. Kelechi, let me ask you this. Now, like I said before, you know, this is an issue that we've battled for years. And it might be a strong wish to hope that someday this will end completely. But how close can we get to eradicating this, or to, you know, making this, reducing this drastically?
Like as I said, there are solutions. There are no problems without solution. There are solutions to this situation. First, the youth. For instance, if I just exist and nobody seems to help me, I should first of all think about helping myself. So let every youth out there think about, first, how do I help myself? If everybody says no to me, will I also say no to myself? So we could, like the person that said professional begging, it's really funny, but people are doing it right now. Even in a situation where, like you said, disguised unemployment, in the situation where you have somebody who is disabled, is the person disabled is the source of income for a family. So somebody who is healthy is carrying the person who is disabled to beg to get money. So first of all, we have to believe in ourselves as young people, youth, because we are controlling the larger part of Nigeria's population. So if we do that, then let other stakeholders, let governments come in, let the society also come in. Another problem we have is that our society is a kind of materialistic. So you see a situation where a young person drives in a big car, people are celebrating him, you know, congratulating him, not asking him, how did you get this car? And someone tells you, I bought this car 3.5 million naira. How did you get it? So if all hands will come on deck and begin to look at this issue, I believe that solution lies in this same problem of unemployment that we're talking about.
All right, Fola, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
All right, Kelechi, thank you very much for coming on the program. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
But however, I still have Ario with us in our Abuja studio. Let me ask you this question. Now, before we leave now, you have talked lots about government and what it's not doing, but let's keep government aside. The people themselves, what can they get themselves involved in? What can the people do so that they can assist one way or the other to get us or get themselves out of this jam?
I think one very important one is agriculture for now, simply because it has a lot of benefit. For instance, we're going to talk about not just the food aspect of it, but the opportunity to also sell and generate some income. But again, unfortunately, there are areas who also want to farm where they are confronted with the menace of herdsmen, murderous herdsmen actually creating problems. I think it's a bad time for us as a nation. But notwithstanding, I think I want to encourage Nigerians that the business of governance is a collective responsibility. As citizens, especially as young Nigerians, we must begin to look for opportunities to see how we can actually, help our nation. Because it is not really about those who are in government. The future belongs to us, and we have to help to create a future for ourselves. And the only way we can create a future for ourselves is by us actually getting involved in the process, of trying to redefine and rescue our nation. And more importantly, the talk that is going on about restructuring, the economic restructuring of governance. The youth, we just also have to be involved so that we can have a major stake in how we think our nation should be run. In addition to this, I believe that people who have lost jobs, people who are suffering some kind of problem should not give up. Let us look within our environment. There are abundance of opportunities, some little things that we can do. We may not have all the time to be able to have luxuries, to be able to have the kind of things we do have before. But notwithstanding, if it means for us to be able to get what will survive us in terms of eating and clothing, let us make do with it. With time, we believe that with a necessary policy in place by the government, we'll be able to add to this and actually, jumpstart ourselves again and move forward. But notwithstanding, I have to make it very clear that it's not over really. It is not really a dead situation. It is not something that probably we have reached a cul-de-sac. It is doable for us to get out of this problem, and the youth must actually rise up. Let us roll up our sleeves, put on our jeans, and see what we can do within our area of influence. Some young guys, if you go on the net, have started suggesting ways by which the youth can actually contribute at this period in time, because it's very gloomy, but in a gloomy cloud, there could be there are positive rays of light and hope for us to be able to. And these are times that's going to bring out the ingenuity in Nigerian youth. So we should not give up, really.
Okay.
We have to contribute our own quota one way or the other to be able to help our nation.
Ario Dare Atoye, thank you very much for coming on TVC Breakfast. Thank you.